this entrepreneurial route is not one for the weak-hearted or the weak-minded. Or you have to be strong and endure, because everything's going to fail. Everything's not going to work out until it does. And even when it does, you still have to kind of keep up with it. So keeping the faith, not doubting, even though I did doubt. I doubted all the time. And I wanted to throw in the towel. I applied for jobs. I would be like, all right, I'm not going to apply for, okay, I'm going to apply for 50 jobs. And I'm not going to, and it's just like, but you have to just honestly put your nose down and just keep going and believe that there is something out there, and believe in yourself, believe in a system, because obviously if you have to do something that you can at least expect a return. But if you really just believe in yourself and understand that you have God on your side, you have family, friends there to support you, just keep going, and eventually it will work out.
Welcome back to Founders in the Field, the show where we go behind the scenes with agency leaders, consultants, and creative founders to show you how they're building, scaling, and staying sane in the trenches. I'm your host, Stefan Bradley, and today's guest is Tanner Woodrum, founder of Ghost Coded and co-founder of Sub-Level Systems. How you doing, Tanner?
Doing pretty good. Thank you, man. Excited to be here.
No, I appreciate you coming on. Let's dive straight in. For people who don't know your story, take us right back to the start of your journey, what made you start your own business, and give us an overview of what your role looks like today at Ghost Coded and Sub-Level Systems.
Awesome. Yeah, so I'll take it back to back in college. I was actually going the med route and was going to become a doctor. It was a passion of mine from, I was little. But what I always known, I always loved technology, just didn't really ever admit it. Thought I needed to go get something super secure, super traditional, right? So I was going the route of, had a biology degree, was a senior, had all my credits, was about to take the MCAT here in the United States, take the MCAT, go to med school. And then towards the end of it, didn't feel right about it. And so I pivoted and started doing some stuff in business, started dabbling. And at that time, AI wasn't a thing. And so I found programming, fell in love with programming, just couldn't get enough of it. Started doing a lot of side gigs, consulting, and then I ended up actually getting a software engineering job, working on, big full stack applications, learning the ins and outs of the, pipelines and the database and the architecture. So getting really nitty gritty on everything. And I was still at school at that time, and then eventually realized I didn't like the busy work that I was having to do, and ended up dropping out. So I mentioned that because that was a crucial, pivotal point of my life. I dropped out of college, so kind of gave up any hope of security, any hope of future enrollment, or job security of getting any jobs, because 99% of employers will automatically reject you if they don't even see any degree on your resume. And so, but I liked the path I was going. I had a couple of clients in the pipeline, kind of jumped all in. And then, as anybody who's done a consultancy understands, there's definitely a feast and famine cycle, so you get a lot of clients, you do a lot of work to get them, and then you start working on the projects, and then once you start wrapping those up, you have to kind of ramp back up the sales simultaneously, and it gets really dodgy and all that. And that was particularly difficult because I was married. I am married, so I've been married for about 5 years, and we have, at the time, we had 2 little kiddos, and so, not only was it pressure to run and build a business, but it was also to provide for a family, right? So a lot of my decisions I made to ensure that they were taken care of, and so I started a couple smaller businesses that were just basically LLC wrappers to kind of protect me and all that. Had never really fully dove into becoming an entrepreneur until 2024. End of 2024, I had started a business. It was a software business. I was building a kind of a new edge CRM for service businesses, and it was going really well. We had a lot of interested clients, but then some funding dried up, and we had put in everything into it, and it failed. And so at the end of 2024, I was out of a company. I had a company that had completely failed. We had, gone into a lot of debt, put a lot of effort into it, and it just didn't work out. And that was really hard. because, don't have a degree. I just lost a business that I thought was going to go for forever. And now it's the end of 2024, looking into 2025, thinking, what the heck am I going to do? Right. So the 2025 comes around and I start getting serious on LinkedIn and start building kind of my personal brand, my voice. And then in August of 2025, I founded, because that's back in the summer, that's when AI really started picking up. So I took my experience in software engineering and consulting, added AI to it, and then have really driven it home to build AI systems, including software and automation. Started that in August, and from February to today, have generated over 3,800 followers on LinkedIn. And from August to today, have generated nearly $90,000 in revenue for business. So my story is one of pivoting from nothing to learning how to do something I've never done before, and then just building a business to where now it's a profitable business and scaling, it's growing. So kind of segue into what I do every day. So on Ghost Coded, that's more of a coaching community cohort style business where I teach people how to do what I do. And then I also do produce a lot of content on LinkedIn and other platforms. And then Sublevel Systems, I was getting so many clients that I needed to get some help. And so I spun off, I took all my consulting custom projects and basically pulled those assets into a new entity, brought on another technical co-founder with me who had the same level of experience. And that's what Sublevel is essentially the arm of actually implementing all the custom builds. It was a little bit of a rundown of where I've came from and what I do now. So yeah, so now I'm more marketing, business development strategy, sales, really on both ends. And then obviously I still do a lot of implementation when we need to.
Well, that's some story, Tanner, I must say. Going from obviously, wanting to do medical and that side of it and pivoting, but it was a real pivotal point, when the CRM sort of company didn't work out, and then to where you are now at a relatively short amount of time as well. What did it feel like when obviously the CRM company sort of went down? Did you have this idea in mind afterwards, or did it take you some time of like trying to work out where you're actually going to go? Because obviously you have, and then you had skills in programming, software, and that type of thing. So you were technically sound there. Was AI just like a natural progression?
Yeah, so it was not easy to pick where I was going to go. I did a lot of different things. Obviously, I was thinking, oh, maybe I can build some websites. That's obviously kind of a hot thing. I tried teaching people how to program. I tried doing just consulting work, but I didn't really have a platform. I didn't have any network. I didn't have a degree. So, I also applied for thousands of jobs. I was desperate, right? Trying to do anything I could just to make ends meet, to find some sort of stability, to get myself back on my feet. So I applied to thousands of jobs. I even got a couple rounds deep. I got 3 rounds deep into a position. And on the third interview, I was passed by the manager, the technical manager. I passed the technical interview, and they just dropped me. Like the hiring team dropped me, and they had no explanation. The manager and then my in to the company was also there. They both knew I passed, but for whatever reason they dropped me. And so there's a lot of ups and downs. I was trying to figure my way. It wasn't like okay, I finished this thing. What are we going to do next? And so as I was trying to work with getting back into the consultancy game, I saw AI and I was like, yeah, like you said, perfect kind of segue of like, okay, I understand what's actually going on in all these systems. So whenever I go and say, hey, let me build you AI, I can do more than just saying, let's get you a ChatGPT wrapper. I could say, hey, we can actually build you a true system that will give you real ROI and be actually, beneficial to your company. So that AI was definitely the segue I needed to kind of get back and build a profitable and a scalable business.
For like my viewers and listeners, how was it to keep that faith that whole time? Because I can imagine there was, like you said, there was lots of ups and downs, and I'm sure doubt would have crept in at times. Like, how was your journey through having faith to be able to do something like this, as opposed to, just thinking of having like the doubt in your head and being like, I don't know what I'm going to do? Because clearly a lot of people would have sort of quit or give up a lot earlier stage than you managed to actually keep that faith, whether that's in yourself or a higher power. Do you know what I mean? That it was going to work out.
I love that, and thanks for bringing that up. So I am a believer in God, so I believe that there was a higher power guiding me, supporting me, uh, but did not let up, did not make it easy for me or my wife. I would say first, um, a lot of times where I literally just hit the ground on my knees and had nowhere else to go. There was no one that could pay my rent. There's no one that could pay for groceries. There's no one that could pay for, the expenses that we had. There's no one that could save me except for him. And I can't recount the times where, you know, just be pleading for something to go through, or there was a client that said they were going to go through and then they just dropped, and then you just feel just devastated because you're like, did all this work to propose it, to meet with them, to give them an honest estimate, and et cetera, to put effort into it, and then just to be like either ghosted or just say, hey, you know what, we're just not going to do it, or we're moving with somebody else. It's a heart gut. It's a terrible feeling, because you have these promises to your family, like, hey, we might have something coming in the door, and then just have it all stripped away. It was honestly, it was very difficult. And if I didn't have God, who was there always by my side, and very close second, my wife, who was with me every step of the way, they're on her knees with me, they're picking me up when I felt defeated, and I think it was harder for her than anybody else, even myself. And so seeing her have to go through that with me was tough and difficult, but also reassuring that I wasn't alone. Uh, this entrepreneurial route is not one for the weak-hearted or the weak-minded. Or you have to be strong and endure, because everything's going to fail. Everything's not going to work out until it does. And even when it does, you still have to kind of keep up with it. So yes, keeping the faith, not doubting, even though I did doubt. I doubted all the time. And I wanted to throw in the towel. I applied for jobs. I would be like, all right, I'm not going to apply for, okay, I'm going to apply for 50 jobs. And I'm not going to, and it's just like, but you have to just honestly, put your nose down and just keep going and believe that there is something out there, and believe in yourself, believe in a system, because obviously you have to do something that you can at least expect a return. But if you really just believe in yourself and understand that you have God on your side, you have family, friends there to support you, just keep going, and eventually it will work out.
That's a great testimony of faith, you know, and I think a lot of people, whether they're religious Christian or not, you know, they having a higher power that you believe in is it's a great thing to make you not quit. It's a great thing to keep you in the game, you know. And like you said, you was on your knees at times, not knowing how it's going to go. And incredible, all Christians, we're all sinners at the end of the day, and we all have things that test our faith, you know. And there will be times where I think every single Christian would be, and every person, your doubt does creep in. It's not that you have this faith and it's just everything's going to be all right all the time, you know. We fail, we get back up. And this thing that says something in the Bible about that, you know, you fail 7 times, but you get back up on the last one. And it's a great, not just tool, but it's a great relationship to be in, being able to always pick you back up and keep you going.
Absolutely.
So, Tanner, what are the biggest trends that you're seeing inside the market today?
Yeah. So obviously you got truly fully agentic systems such as OpenClaw, NeoClaw. Those are kind of the hottest topics. And then of course, Anthropic's Claude is just absolutely eating everybody's lunch. Right? Every single day we're waking up to them building a brand new feature that just crushes, or builds some sort of productivity tool that makes every other tool out there irrelevant, or at least they're back on their heels, like, oh snap, we gotta build back up our moat. You know what I mean? And then there are less talked about things that I primarily use that were really hot, about a year ago. So NAN is a very popular tool in the market still, and then Cursor as well. They've recently kind of been in the light with their recent model release of Composer 2, which was said to be able to outperform Codex. ChatGPT's programming model, as well as Opus 4.6. And so, and then obviously a little bit of controversy about how their model really isn't custom and proprietary. It's actually just a pre-trained, using the base model of Kimi 2.5, which is a Chinese model that they've heavily trained and did all the different things. So anyways, so those are definitely the biggest trends right now in the market. OpenClaw and NeoClaw. So NeoClaw is a wrapper for OpenClaw, but it's NVIDIA's version of it for more enterprise. And what those are essentially one-click install agentic systems that you can essentially say, hey, so you install and you're like, hey, I want to connect to my CRM. I want to connect to my email. I want to connect to my iMessages, and it just connects, figures it out, builds on itself. But obviously that comes with a lot of security risks, comes with a lot of data privacy issues, which have been exploited heavily. And so that's where NeoClaw was NVIDIA's solution to make it a little bit more enterprise, more security focused. And those two have been kind of the hot topics right now. And like I said before, Claude, obviously coming out with Claude Cowork, that's able to even run your entire computer for you, move your mouse, open apps, do different things, fill out spreadsheets, etc. So yeah, the AI world is constantly evolving. Those are just a couple of things that I've picked up on recently.
And do you think, obviously, how the way people would build automations previously to how it's not quite 100% there yet, but it's getting to that point where, do you think it will be at a point where you could just say to an AI, build me this workflow, and it will just connect everything up, as opposed to somebody actually having to go in and be like an architect to actually put it all together?
I have a hard time believing that it's going to get to that point. Personally, I believe there will always be a need for some sort of human architecture to ensure, because at the end of the day, a business is interaction between two humans. And I think that's how it should be. I think that's how it will be. Um, will the tools that the humans use improve? Yes. I still think that there is the biggest thing for me is AI forever, in my opinion. It's, they preach artificial intelligence and AGI and all that, but AI is only as good as the data that it's feeding off of. And so there will always need to be some level of understanding, because you put an AI into some sort of service business who's running their entire business off of Excel spreadsheets and Word documents and paper. How the heck is it going to properly design a system when it has to both use physical world, human emotions, human understanding, hit by a bus understanding of like one person knows everything, extracting all the information, and also not making it to where there's insane amount of token costs, etc. There's more to automation than just connecting apps. That's where a lot of businesses fail implementing AI. They think, and the market preaches and sells them that, oh, you just come in here, click a couple buttons, tell it what you want it to do, and then boom, bada bang, you're good. And to an extent, it works that way, because at a bare minimum, yeah, you can connect to CRM and all that, but it doesn't solve the fundamental issue that their data is not sound. They're how their operations are running. They're not fixing anything. They're just putting, the term, it's putting lipstick on a pig. Like, you're just taking something really fancy and nice and kind of slapping on top of it and trying to hide the fact that you still haven't automated your own processes and procedures. You haven't automated your SOPs. And so a lot of things that I see when I'm working with businesses, it's like, yeah, we can build you, and the tooling to build agentic systems is getting really good. But you need somebody to come in, consult you on, hey, do you have a data pipeline that's going to feed your AI? Do you have systems and procedures that are going to be used as tools for the agentic system? Like, yeah, sure, you can have it build it, but the amount of time it is to have AI go back and forth with the AI and it not understand and it mess up, and it's building all this kind of bloat. Whereas you can come in and say, hey, let's sit down and map this out real quick and then give it to the AI. So there's a lot of time efficiencies, cost efficiencies when it comes to doing it properly, where it's not just an agentic system that takes care of it, but also there's that human touch, the consulting aspect to bring it together.
So when you help businesses like that, for example, a service-based business, you don't just build the automation, you'll actually go into the weeds of them and actually, I suppose, make the architecture around it that feeds the AI to be able to get the results as well.
Correct. I always, when somebody comes to me and they ask for an agentic system, I always look at their underlying processes. First thing I do is I say, hey, what is your procedure to get this kind of data? And they usually tell me, we work through what are the human steps, what are the things required. And what I always tell clients and the people who I teach, it's like, we're not trying to get to the moon. We just need to get 1% better. That's the goal to get started, because that's the quickest way to provide ROI. That's the quickest way to provide trust. And when you build a system at those bite-sized chunks and not trying to go for the home run, you actually build a true system, a system that is actually reliable, and a system that will, stand the test of time, instead of just a quick fix that's flashy and cool, but it's going to die after a year.
So starting small and making sure that it's actually further back than the actual output. So further back into the system, like when you said then, to having the human steps, if we can get that data to be able to seamlessly go across to this AI, then that's going to actually be able to give you the output that you need.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So, Tanner, what is working well, and where do you feel slight friction inside ghost-coded and sub-level systems?
Yeah, what's working well is definitely my lead generation. So, like I mentioned before, 90K in revenue is 100% inbound from LinkedIn. I don't run any ads. I don't run any marketing. Traditional marketing methods, right? I am a firm believer in organic social selling, and that has been something that's worked really well. I get meetings booked almost daily, closing deals almost weekly, a couple times a week, ranging from small automations to large softwares. A lot of the life cycles of those bids, 1 to 2 days to a couple weeks, depending on the size of the project. So in terms of sub-level systems, creating that funnel on LinkedIn has been working very well. And then also kind of, I have several different, I wanted to make sure I never had to worry about the feast and famine, right? And so where I have my consulting arm, I also have the coaching and teaching arm that's more residual. So you have a community, I have cohorts, I have classes I teach every week. And so building a blend of different services, not diversifying yourself too much to where you're spread too thin, but basically having one focal point, but several different channels that can bring in revenue to feed the business. So that's what's working well. What could be improved on is definitely kind of building my own systems. If you ever heard of the analogy of like the knife maker that has wooden knives, like it's like the person who's the art, like the master of a skill, typically doesn't do it for themselves, right? So and obviously the business is relatively new, so establishing procedures for like bidding out projects, that takes a lot of my time, and where I focus on just generating the revenue, haven't really established my own procedures, and I have my own procedure and process, but not like truly automating it. So those are some things. The biggest bottleneck is kind of my own time, because I'm constantly on meetings, constantly on calls, constantly producing content, etc. And so when I do have things come through the door, it's okay, how can I get this back to the client as fast as possible, and then kind of continue moving it on down the client roadmap.
And like you said, then the biggest bottleneck is your time, and I suppose that's maybe partly why you built Ghost Coded as well, because if you build up the community of you teaching them how to do what you do, you can speak to multiple lots, hundreds, thousands of people sort of at once, or get them as a different kind of client, but kind of they're still a client, and so there's probably that's the best use of your time.
Yeah, exactly. that was the factor of scalability that I needed to where I could produce something once and it could multiply, you know, without me taking much of my time. So for instance, I run a bi-monthly cohort teaching about how to sell AI and then also how to build AI. And with that, I just show up, for the cohort sessions, but I could sell as many seats as I want, right? And so that helped be able to save me time while also still generating revenue to kind of like feed the business, feed the what we're doing in those periods of like famine, for instance, where we're working on a bigger project and we haven't seen another project come through. There's still this other arm of uh, revenue stream that kind of helps subsidize those famine periods.
I think it's 100% smart thing to do. Especially how many people do you have in your business now? Obviously, I know you said you had a co-founder with sort of level systems. Do you have other people implementing, or is it mainly the delivery actually falls on you?
So before the co-founder, the delivery fell primarily on me, all on me. I have a network of subcontractors that I do subcontract work out to occasionally. Then, yeah, obviously that's good and it's nice, but there's a lot of training that has to come up. And sometimes, as you're starting a business, you kind of just need to do whatever it takes to get it done. And subcontractors, it's hard to kind of have that relationship with somebody or expect that of somebody. And so that's when I thought, hey, you know, better use case would be bringing in somebody that just gets straight equity um, and revenue share, and they will just kind of do what needs to be done to get the project taken care of or get it done fast so that we have a larger margin, etc. And I went that route instead of hiring like a larger team. So at the moment, my time has been offloaded to the co-founder to where I don't need any more team members. But I can see that quickly turning to where we're going to start needing to build another team under sublevels umbrella to kind of help with the scalability.
Yeah, no, definitely. But with all that in mind, do you know what I mean? With now you have a co-founder, that's clearly why. Like the obvious progression would be the ghost coded part of it. Do you know what I mean? To have that community. So I definitely
Exactly.
see the value of that 100%. But Tanner, I've got two more questions for you. Starting with, where do you want to be in terms of business in the next 12 to 18 months?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would like to, um, so like I said, LinkedIn's kind of a big factor of all of this. It's where I get both clientele. So in the next 12 to 18 months, I'd like to hit the 10K marker in followers. And again, it's kind of like, well, why is that a goal? It's because if I have that amount of volume of voice, then my business will also scale with that, if that makes sense. So goal number one, so like right now, my goal is 5K, 5K by the end of the summer is kind of what I'm hoping to get to. And I'm already at 3,800, so I'm pretty on a good trajectory there. So in a year, hopefully to get that 10K. And in terms of business for Ghost Coded side of things, I want to build my community right now. I think about like 70 members for my community. In a year, I'd like to see that number up to the 300 mark. Sub-level systems, we're generating uh, about that 90K of revenue. I'd love to see that in anywhere near the 150 to 200K revenue a year kind of standpoint. Those three markers are the biggest indicators of where I want my growth to be in the company.
To get to that next level of growth, is it relying on LinkedIn to be able to grow that? That's you sort of like doubling down on what's already worked. Would you say?
Exactly. So that's the it's kind of like the can't don't fix what ain't broke kind of mentality, right? And so that's why the number one goal is scale follower count, follower base to get to that 10K. Because if I can get that number up, then the organic leads have shown they'll be coming through the door to kind of bring in that predictable because I know the content that performs well and know what to kind of push. And I even have my own quote unquote outbound strategy within LinkedIn. So outbound, it's really just all inbound, but a way to reliably scale my follower account while establishing true connections and like partners to then bring in the additional revenue that I'm looking for.
Okay, Tanner, so my last question is, if you could wave a magic wand and fix one thing in your business, what would it be and why?
Oh man, that is a good question. Give me a second to think about that. Fix in my business. Uh, yeah, fix and improve is I'm going to kind of use that one. It would definitely be the in the consulting space, bidding on a project is the most difficult piece because every project that comes through is not the same. There's different aspects. There's things that could be similar. So, your goal is to always try to keep like a one size fit all model, but rarely does that happen because there's edge cases, add-ons that they want. What I would, if I could wave a magic wand right now, I would have a hyper custom, which I want to work on this soon, but basically an AI agent that helps kind of pull in previous scope of works, previous proposals, projects that have gone through, projects that haven't gone through, transcriptions, just kind of being this mastermind where I can say, hey, after this call with a client or prospect, it takes that in, ingests it all, and then it produces a near perfect proposal of pricing and like structure of the deal depending on the certain use case, the individual, the circumstance, the technology. Ideally, you could just fire that away. Right after the call, pull it all together, shoot it away. Because there's already systems like that happen, but they don't work very well because they're not custom. Waving a magic wand, it'd be a beautifully put AI agent to help me with the bidding and proposal tool.
Well, I'm sure when you get time, do you know what I mean? When you put some time to that, I'm sure you'll be able to do that. Do you know what I mean? By just you putting over the 90K deals that you've already done, just being able to
Yeah,
feed
sure.
that in there so it can go back and actually pull from that pool of knowledge to make it custom. So, yeah, I think, I don't think it'll be long and you'll be building something like that, definitely.
Yeah, stay tuned.
So, yeah. So, Tanner, thank you so much for coming on. I've loved this conversation, learning about your business and yourself. Where can people, my viewers and listeners, reach out to you if they're wanting to potentially collaborate or to speak about any potential?
Absolutely. Yeah. So, like I've said, the whole call, LinkedIn is definitely the best place to get to me. You can also go to my website, ghostcoded.com. You'll find information there. You can also find us on School, that's at the community, and that's Ghost Coders. Yeah, LinkedIn will definitely be your best bet.
There you go, everybody. Tanner, thank you again. And everybody that's watching and listening, please like, comment, subscribe, and stay tuned for the next episode.